Most people think they know the kinds of cars Jeremy Clarkson loves. Big engines, loud exhausts, wild personalities. But here's the twist. Some of the cars he praised most weren't supercars at all. They were the last vehicles anyone expected him to enjoy. And if you understand why he liked these machines, you'll understand something deeper about driving, reliability, and engineering. Stick around, because number 1 is a shock even lifelong Clarkson fans never see coming. Let's dive in. Number 10. Jeep Wrangler. Most people assume Clarkson has no patience for rugged off-roaders. He's mocked them for being slow, loud, and shaped like bricks with tires. But here's the twist. One of the greatest drives of his entire life happened inside a Jeep Wrangler. He doesn't pretend it's a great car, and he certainly never put it on a top 10 list. But he has said that crossing the Sierra Nevada in a Wrangler was so raw and so honest that it stayed with him for decades. And that's the key. The Wrangler doesn't try to impress you. It doesn't fake refinement or hide its flaws behind electronics. It does one job: take you somewhere unforgettable. And it does that job with total sincerity. Clarkson respects any machine that delivers exactly what it promises, even if it's crude, noisy, and looks like it was drawn with a ruler. It's a reminder that he doesn't always reward perfection. Sometimes he rewards authenticity. And if the Wrangler sounds surprising, wait until you hear what he said about the next car. A humble family sedan he claimed handled better than some of the prestige German models of its era. Number 9. Ford Mondeo ST220. Most people forget the Ford Mondeo ST220 ever existed. And in the US, most people have never even seen one. The closest American equivalent would be the Ford Fusion. But the ST220 was far more focused, far more athletic, and far more of a hidden gem. And Clarkson didn't talk about it often. But when he did, he said something that caught a lot of people off guard. This unassuming family sedan handled better than some of the BMWs of its time. That's not a small compliment. Clarkson has spent half his career using BMW as the benchmark for proper dynamics. So when he says a Ford has sharper feel and better balance, you pay attention. He never called it beautiful, and he never tried to pretend it was luxurious. What impressed him was how naturally it drove. No ego, no drama, just a chassis that felt alive and willing. The kind of car that rewards normal people with the sensations usually reserved for premium badges. In Clarkson's world, that's a big deal. He respects cars that over-deliver on the fundamentals, not the ones chasing status. And the ST220 absolutely over-delivered. It was the quiet hero of its era, hiding real capability behind a body that blended into every car park in Britain. But if that surprised you, the next one goes even further. A mainstream hatchback, Clarkson said single-handedly made driving fun again. Number 8. Volkswagen Golf GTI Mark V. In the US, the GTI has always had a loyal following, but Clarkson's praise for the Mark V was on another level. He said this version made the hot hatch fun again, which is remarkable when you realize how many high-powered turbo cars he drove that same year. What impressed him wasn't the speed, it was the balance. The steering feel, the chassis composure, the way it settled into a corner and encouraged you to push just a little harder. Clarkson doesn't hand out compliments to everyday commuter cars. He spent decades driving supercars that cost more than most American homes. So when he calls a normal front-wheel drive hatchback one of the most enjoyable cars on the road, that should make you stop and think. He liked that it didn't try to be something it wasn't. No fake drama, no manufactured engine noise. Just an honest, well-engineered machine that punched far above its weight. And what makes this praise even more surprising is that he preferred the Mark V over several more powerful competitors. Cars that on paper should have destroyed it. But paper specs don't impress Clarkson. Driving feel does. If he was willing to praise a practical hatchback for its pure fun factor, the next car will surprise you even more. Because it has barely 200 horsepower. Yet, he said it delivered more joy than some performance cars twice its price. Number 7. Subaru BRZ/Toyota GT86. To understand why Clarkson's praise for this car is so surprising, you have to remember one thing. He loves power. Big V8s, wild turbochargers, engines that try to rearrange your rib cage. So when a lightweight rear-wheel drive coupe with barely 200 horsepower showed up, most people assumed he'd shrug and move on. But he didn't. He lit up. Clarkson said the Subaru BRZ, along with its twin, the Toyota GT86, wasn't about the numbers at all. It was about feel. He liked that it communicated every shift in weight, every change in grip, every little correction you made through the wheel. In an era when many sports cars use software to shape the experience, this one steps back and lets you do the driving. And for Clarkson, that's the point. He still mocked the lack of power, of course. He joked that it couldn't outrun a determined house pet. But he also said it delivered something far more important than straight-line speed: joy. Authentic, mechanical joy that made every corner feel like a conversation rather than an algorithm. For a man famous for loving excess, admitting that a modest, naturally aspirated coupe might be more fun than turbocharged machines twice its price says everything. And if a low-power sports car earned that kind of praise, wait until you see what he said about the next one, a brand with a reputation for unreliability. Yet Clarkson argued their best cars were worth owning because of the flaws, not in spite of them. Number 6. Alfa Romeo 156. And the Alfas he can't help loving. Clarkson has a long, complicated relationship with Alfa Romeo. He's mocked their reliability, laughed at their electrical problems, and warned viewers many times that owning one might test the limits of their sanity. And yet, when the Alfa Romeo 156 arrived, he couldn't hide it. He loved it. Not because it was sensible, not because it was dependable, but because, in his words, it had a kind of soul most modern cars simply didn't. He praised the steering feel, the beautifully balanced chassis, and the way the car made even an ordinary drive feel like a small event. Clarkson never pretended the 156 was perfect. He didn't even pretend Alfa Romeo had solved its reliability issues. But he argued that none of that mattered when a car connected with you this deeply. That's why he once said everyone should own an Alfa at least once in their life. Not to be practical, but to understand what passion in a machine actually feels like. The 156 represented that contradiction perfectly. Flawed, fragile, but absolutely unforgettable. And if Clarkson was willing to put aside reliability for the sake of character, the next car shows the opposite. A modern BMW that stunned him by bringing the raw analog magic he thought the company had lost years earlier. Number 5. BMW 1M Coupe. Clarkson doesn't hand out compliments to modern BMWs lightly. In fact, he spent years criticizing the brand for drifting away from the pure driver-focused cars that made it legendary. Too heavy, too digital, too obsessed with numbers, and not enough with feel. So when he climbed into the BMW 1M, most people expected the usual routine: a few jokes, a few jabs, and a polite pat on the head. Instead, he called it one of the most exciting BMWs of the modern era. What surprised him was how intentionally old school it felt. The 1M didn't try to be a luxury car. It didn't try to smother the road with electronics. It delivered a short wheelbase, big torque, a manual gearbox, and handling that didn't feel sanitized. Clarkson even said it had more character and more willingness to play than several contemporary M3s and M5s that cost far more. That's the part that stands out. Clarkson doesn't automatically like new versions of old icons, but he appreciated the 1M because it captured something BMW had nearly forgotten: a sense of mischief, a sense that the car wasn't just fast, it was alive. And if that's what it took for a modern BMW to earn his respect, the next pick flips the script completely. A family SUV he described as one of the best cars ever built for real people, even though excitement had nothing to do with it. Number 4. Volvo XC90 First Generation. Clarkson praising an SUV is rare. Praising a family SUV is almost unheard of. Yet the first-gen Volvo XC90 earned something from him that performance cars twice the price often didn't: genuine respect. He didn't call it thrilling, and he didn't pretend it was fun. What he admired was how perfectly it understood its purpose. He pointed out that the XC90 wasn't trying to impress anyone. It didn't chase lap times or horsepower wars. It focused on visibility, comfort, safety, and smart packaging. Things real drivers actually use every single day. Clarkson once said it was one of the best family cars ever made because it solved problems instead of creating new ones. The seats were outstanding, the interior layout made sense, and the visibility and ride quality were engineered for people, not marketing brochures. In an era when many SUVs were pretending to be sports cars, Volvo built something honest, something practical, something that made life easier instead of more complicated. And that's exactly why Clarkson admired it. It did everything normal families needed, without pretending to be something it wasn't. If a quiet, sensible Volvo could earn that kind of praise, the next car takes us even deeper into Clarkson's unexpected tastes. A luxury sedan, he said, represented a kind of engineering arrogance we may never see again. Number 3. Mercedes-Benz S-Class, W126/W140 era. Clarkson has never been shy about calling out modern luxury cars for being bloated, overcomplicated, and full of tech no one asked for. But when he talks about older S-Classes, the W126 and the W140 in particular, his tone changes completely. These weren't cars built by committees or accountants. They were built by engineers who behaved, in his words, with a kind of arrogance. The good kind. The kind that says, we're going to build the best car in the world, and cost is not invited to the meeting. He admired how absurdly overbuilt these sedans were. Doors that shut like bolts, switchgear designed to last a lifetime. Suspension tuned not for marketing claims, but for actual comfort. Engines designed before emissions regulations crowded every inch of the bay with sensors. Clarkson often contrasted them with modern luxury cars, which he said rely too heavily on electronics and luxury theater instead of genuine engineering quality. For him, these older S-Classes represented a lost philosophy. Cars that weren't just premium, but serious. Cars that made you feel something simply because they were engineered to outlive their owners. And in an era of subscription features and fragile touchscreens, that kind of confidence hits even harder. If Clarkson respected the old S-Class for being unapologetically overbuilt, the next car brings the opposite appeal. Something light, simple, and joyful, proving that he doesn't reserve his highest praise for expensive machines at all. Number 2. Mazda MX-5 Miata. Clarkson has driven more exotic machinery than almost anyone alive. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Paganis, million-dollar hypercars tuned within an inch of physics. So it's always shocking when he lights up talking about a Mazda MX-5. But he does, repeatedly, and not in a polite, good-for-the-price way, but genuine admiration. What he loved was how right it felt. The MX-5 wasn't about horsepower, and it didn't try to fake excitement with sound effects or stiff suspension. It was light, balanced, and communicative in a way most modern sports cars have forgotten. He praised the steering, the chassis feel, the simplicity, and emphasized that the joy it delivered came from its proportions, not its power. Clarkson even argued the MX-5 revealed a deeper truth about driving. Fun comes from engagement, not speed. A slow car you can push to its limits is more rewarding than a fast one you can never fully explore. For someone famous for loving outrageous performance, that's a remarkable statement. His praise matters even more because he kept coming back to it, long after newer, faster cars came and went. He never called it a favorite, but he consistently called it one of the purest sports cars ever made. And as much as Clarkson admired the MX-5 for its purity, the final car on this list earned something rarer, a declaration that it had the greatest engine ever fitted to a road car, from a brand almost no one expected. Number 1. Lexus LFA. Clarkson has driven cars most people only ever see in museums or on posters. Bugattis, McLarens, V12 Lamborghinis. So when he says a particular engine is the greatest ever fitted to a road car, you stop and listen. And that's exactly what he said about the Lexus LFA. It surprised him because Lexus wasn't supposed to build something like this. They were the beige cardigan of the car world. Quiet, sensible, predictable. Yet the LFA arrived with a hand-built V10 that revved like an F1 car and sounded like nothing else on the planet. Clarkson said the response was instant, the power band addictive, and the noise, shaped with Yamaha's help, borderline art. He admired the seriousness behind it. Lexus didn't build the LFA for sales or prestige. They built it to show what happens when engineering comes first. Even the digital tachometer existed because the engine revved too quickly for an analog needle. That level of intent impressed him. And here's the twist. The LFA wasn't a commercial success. It was expensive, slow to sell, and misunderstood, which makes Clarkson's praise even more meaningful. He wasn't swayed by hype. He loved it because it was uncompromising, emotional, and built with craftsmanship we may never see again. For a man famous for being unimpressed, the LFA broke the pattern. It earned his respect through execution so precise that even Clarkson had to admit, this one is special. Some of these cars were flawed, some were brilliant, and some were barely noticed when they were new. But each one earned Clarkson's praise for the same reason: authenticity. If you want more no-nonsense car guides and real engineering truths, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.